Welcome to the Always Better Than Yesterday YouTube channel. I am your host, Ryan Hartley. This channel is for heart-centered leaders just like you. I hope our time spent together helps you leave a heartprint where those around you are left better than yesterday. These interview sessions are sponsored by our great friends at Elevate Online Marketing. On episode 178, I'm joined by Yakov Darling Khan, the author of the best-selling book Jaguar in the Body, Butterfly in the Heart, the real-life initiation of an everyday shaman, and the recently released Shaman, Invoking Power, Purpose and Presence in the Core of Who You Are. Yakov and I have a wonderful conversation about what it means to be a shaman in the modern world and how it's relevant to our health, our well-being, our community structure and our leadership. It's a great conversation. I hope that it really inspires the spirit within you. And here we go, episode 178 with Yakov Darling Khan. Yakov, welcome to the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast. How are you, brother?
I'm doing really well, thank you. Thanks for the invitation. Really
you and I just having a little chat off air, and I was just saying, I love everything that you embody, you represent in the world, and I've talked about bringing a bit of heart-centered leadership to the world. But on this topic of shamanism, I am a novice, so you're going to have to treat me and my audience as such. Are you cool with that?
Absolutely, it's part of the point, really. One of the things I'm most passionate about in this life is helping people to understand and make use of why shamanism is actually relevant for human beings living in the modern world and what it means to us, how it answers so many of our questions and needs, and it speaks to so many of the things that are frankly really missing from our day-to-day lives.
Yeah, I'm really glad you've written books about it, because I don't think everybody would like to be struck by lightning to figure out that they had an inner shaman.
But no, I have to say though, it did happen, and it was a great experience. And not the being hit by it, but the weeks and months and years and life that has followed it. And, I had no idea, but I did find out many years later that in many indigenous traditions, that's how a shaman is pointed out to their people. They get hit by lightning. And apparently it's not that rare. It happens around 3,000 times a year on this earth. So
wow. What was that like? Just take us through if you can remember it, like what was it like being struck by lightning?
It was like being thudded on the head by a very strong mallet, and I felt a bit like a tent peg. But the truth is, I actually took me a couple of minutes to work out, am I still alive or have I died? So that I was really in that in-between place. I was alive, I was very much alive, but I didn't know, and everything was I don't know, it's like if anyone's had an operation or they felt faint at some time, like that feeling of coming round from something. And so I must have been slightly unconscious. But as soon as I realized I was alive and well and checked, there was nothing broken, hurt, burned, there were no marks, I had no Harry Potter scar, nothing to mark me out. It was just there was the feeling of immediately, wow, you've been given a second chance. I like, maybe I should be dead, but I'm not. Okay, let's get on with it, basically. You haven't got time to waste. And, yeah.
What is it about shamanism then that led you on a 30-year induction?
Well, it was, as a child, I had all kinds of experiences that if I had been living in an indigenous village in the Amazon, they'd have taken me straight to the shaman, like, you deal with him. But in the family and the culture I was growing up in, the experiences I was having, there was no real context for them. Speaking to my great-grandmother after she died, my dream life seeming much more real to me than my waking life. The challenges of being in a body and trying to fit in, and not, like, kind of getting a sense from the world around me that what was being said and what was being shown physically, language-wise, what was being thought, were three different things. One of my teachers, Gabrielle Roth, called that trizophrenia, thinking, feeling, and doing different things at the same time. That not congruency, like a real sense of difficulty with connecting. And shamanism, after I'd been struck by lightning, when I discovered there was such a thing as shamanism, it was the first thing that I had read or heard about that actually made sense of my own experience and gave it context. And the context being, look, Yakov, this is not so unusual. People all through human history, all around the world, have had these kinds of experiences, but more importantly, they've made use of them. They've made them into a service for their people. And the shaman is a role, either in the psyche or in the community. And so in the psyche, the shaman is the part of us that really has a strong connection with our channel of inspiration, our dreams. They are the part of us that knows how to listen and create ceremony, ritual, initiations that allow us to make physical, to bring into the world what we dream, what matters to us. So that they're that part of us that really can guide us to you might call it an inner compass, that place. And it is the heart. Like in traditional shamanism, the heart is the trunk of the body, and the trunk represents the world in which we are engaged, the physical reality. How are we living? How are we relating? How close to our own purpose are we? Do we even know what that is? And that, so it's the trunk of the tree of life, whereas there's an upper world, which is more about the big, you might call it blue sky thinking in terms of leadership, that opening to what's not yet known and opening up to a wide open source of inspiration. And then that's the branches. And then you have the lower world, the roots. That's more our unconscious. This is the unconscious drives that we are living from so much of the time. So shamanism then in the modern world is about being in the body and joining these three things: the intelligence of the mind, the open sky, the heart, and the kinesthetic, physical intelligence of the body. And when you join them together, and our practice, what we've created, is all about that, then you're switched on. It's like you get plugged in. Roots, trunk, branches. You are a channel for your own self to land in this world and be lived, to live your dreams.
Hey my friends, just want to take a quick moment to thank you for listening to the show so far. I hope it is serving you well, and I wanted to let you know that on the 25th of June we will be holding a 5-year celebration based at the home of our podcast, Elevate Online Marketing offices in Trowbridge. Our community turns 5 this summer, and I really want to bring great people like you together. We have 3 guest speakers lined up. We will be joined by the YouTube sensations that are Evolution of Dave and Esther McCann. And we'll also be joined by our great friend and TEDx speaker, Tommy Gentleman. It's going to be a great celebration. We'll have welcome drinks provided by Elevate Online Marketing. We're going to have some great food provided by Velicious. And we have a band performing live for the very first time. There's a special connection with the band. All will be revealed soon. But for now, please head to the show notes, get your tickets, and I really look forward to celebrating with you on the 25th of June. Let's get back to the interview. I love that. Thank you for that description. And I think, you know, even as recent, I think about 4 years ago, I would have described myself as a man of science. Like, but I've been on this journey, you know, spiritual surrender, if I call it. Is surrender is still my least favorite word. But as I've continued to grow and journey in my spiritual awareness, it's like I'm giving myself hardware with which to perceive new things. And I think one of the magical things that happens is that you start to see yourself connected to the web of life. And there's this wonderful sentence that you have in your book, Shaman. It's just talking about, because I think you write to your son Ruben, you talk about his generation, and you talk about we're all waking up to both the mess and the magnificence of life. I really love that sentence. Is when you start to have that awakening and consciousness, we realize what a mess this world is, but also what magnificence it contains.
Well, absolutely. And you know, I find it very fascinating. You're saying that you're discovering or finding the hardware. And I would say that hardware is, we are evolved inside that hardware. The hardware is the intelligence of the body that's beating my heart, your heart right now, that's replacing the cells, that is an intelligence that's evolved, that actually came from the nuclear furnace of exploding stars billions of years ago. We are made of the evolution of life on this earth, and that evolution has taken form in the shape of your body, my body, and that body has its own intelligence. And yes, that body knows, because it's grounded in reality, in physical reality, let's call it physical reality, that what's going on is both tragic and ecstatic simultaneously, that we have these extremes. There is extreme suffering and unconsciousness and driving towards the edge of a cliff with our foot flat on the pedal, even knowing that we are, even that we've now woken up to the fact that our lifestyles are unsustainable. You know, shamans were the original system thinkers. They were the original ecologists. They understood how our own personal health, the health of our relationships, the health of our families, the health of our communities. And I'm not just talking physical health, but emotional health, spiritual health, were connected and are connected to the health of the whole biosphere. And if we're not living in a healthy mindset and in a healthy body and taking care as best as we can and recognizing the extraordinary capabilities that we are born inside. You know, this body, it's not a metaphor that it's made from earth. It is earth. The light that I'm seeing in your eyes now is ancient sunlight that we've transmuted through the food we eat, through really taking in that light of the sun. We are 65% water. Without breath, it's over. We are elemental beings. And that elemental intelligence it helps us in all areas of our life. Be grounded, earth. Be inspired, light up, fire. Be fluid. Don't be rigid, be fluid, water. You know, open up to the wide space of possibility, the wind. These are the metaphors that we're working with, but they exist in physical reality within us. They don't belong to a special few. We are that.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, you know, some people ask, you know, what is the significance of this when I go to work, you know, my job? And I think one of the flaws in our society is that we've separated work and worship and work and spirit. And it's almost like, here's my spiritual practices I'll do on the yoga mat or at the weekend. And here's my work. And there's no surprise that we go to workplaces that drain our souls. But, you know, how do you guide and support and nurture people to live and to embody this sense of a shaman, a spirit?
It's great. Well, yeah, you know, if you're somebody who is in that kind of work that is not soul-based, it's not really coming from your sense of your deep purpose. It's just a way to pay the bills. And, you know, that's something we all have to do and we all have to take care of. And sometimes that's part of the process. You just do what you need to do to get where you're going. Yeah. But, you know, in a very practical sense, what we say to people in that position is, you know, go to the bathroom once a day, get your headphones on, close the door in the loo and just shake and jump and move and dance, like put on a strong piece of music and get your body moving and rocking. And remember your feet, remember your body. Like don't end up at the end of the day all hunched up, stressed, tight in, you know, and then take it home and take it out on the people that you love most. Don't carry it. Don't carry the stress around. Release it. Stop every 30 minutes. That's one thing. Second, if you the important thing is, from my point of view, is that, as you were saying, work and practice and purpose and family and dream and all of these things, creativity, they belong together. That, you know, if you look at, we're very lucky in our family. We have very good connections with families and tribes in the Amazon rainforest who are still living an indigenous life. They're still hunting for their food. They're still living from the plenty and beneficence of the forest around them. They know they're keeping the old ceremonies alive. They're not broken. They've never been defeated. They're living in community. And, you know, their work, they get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm talking about at the Jaguar tribe, particularly, and the Zaporod nation. They get up 4 o'clock in the morning, drink a lot of tea quickly, which helps them to purge, to purify, to clean out their guts. That tea is not it's not psychedelic, it's just full of goodness, but it does wake them up. Then they sit down, they share their dreams. And from their dreams, they'll then know what the day ahead is likely to contain and what would be a good thing to focus on. So they're really, that connection between their dream life and their waking life remains very strong. And then most of their work is done within 3 or 4 hours, unless it's a day of hunting. You know, the weaving, the cooking, the making the chicha, which is what they drink. All of this happens in 3 or 4 hours. And then the rest of the day is family and community and play and, you know, really living life. And yet the Ecuadorian government describes them as, you know, poverty stricken. They need help. They don't. They lack
living nothing.
They lack nothing. They live lives that we might dream of.
I really do believe that the Western culture we live in is attacking our lack from a very, very early age. They've created an image of, you know, the pursuit of something will always reveal the absence of something, and we've just got unsettled spirits that are constantly looking for more in the pursuit of what is success, right? And I obviously had Dr. Bruce Lipton on the show recently, and he talked about how the British Empire, you know, the first thing they would do when they'd find new territories is to wipe out the indigenous people. And these were the people who knew intuitively how to live in harmony with the environment. So we've replaced this intuition with a bias for like cognitive intelligence, like the thinking, and I think that's deeply flawed. And in your book, you talked about the honing of our animal intelligence. Like, what is our animal intelligence?
Well, great. We share the same emotional intelligence with all mammals, and so our emotional impulses are honed over millions of years. They are a service to us. They're not something to understand, get rid of, overcome. They're something to move with. So one of my teachers early on said emotion stands for energy in motion. I like that. So what does that mean? It means if I feel fear, then fear is an impulse to pay attention, like what's going on. If you watch, you know, in the savannah, the animals that are prey animals, and you watch how they don't live in fear of the night, even though at night when it's hunting time, one of them will be eaten. Yeah. But you look at them during the day, they're not all huddled in a corner going, oh my God, who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? Yeah. They're living, they're eating, they're fully engaged. And though they are the most vulnerable, they're also the most curious. Yeah. So that prey instinct within us that is light on our feet and awake to what's going on. This is how fear exists in our animal intelligence. Yeah. It's not overwhelming. The reason we become so overwhelmed by fear is because we have such a backlog of unallowed, disallowed, denied, repressed emotion, which makes it more difficult for us to engage with that animal intelligence. Anger is a recognition that our integrity has been challenged, attacked, or broken. And that's a very important thing. We need to know if somebody's crossing the line. And anger is, again, if it's not allowed, if it's not supported as a dance, as a movement, like, okay, I'm angry. What do I do with that? Well, I'm going to find somebody to blame. No. What's the animal intelligence of anger? It's refined your shape, refined your integrity. Let that fire move through you, take responsibility for it, and use it to strengthen your integrity. And through that, your ability to communicate, to allow you and I to be different. Like, that's exciting. Then we can have differences and engage rather than be full of ancient, repressed irritation that means that the second you say something I disagree with, I'm in reactivity. Yeah. So, and then our sadness it's such a profound gift. I'm not talking about depression. That's sadness is about letting go. Depression is how we hold on to the past, how we hold on to our stories, our interpretation about what's happening. But sadness is the waterfall. It's the way that we grieve. It's the way, to use your least favorite word, we surrender. And I do understand that. And surrender doesn't mean give up. So to surrender is an incredibly courageous thing. Yeah. To let go to a greater power than yourself. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, in the dance, we're doing that. In sadness, we're teaching the body to shake, not to hold on, not to turn in, but to open up, like to be a waterfall. And when we allow that, the tenderness and the sense of connection that we have, and this is all about swimming in the waters of life, not being afraid of our tears. Oh my God, you're sad. Let me hug that out of you. Let me make you better immediately, because I can't bear you to feel what I'm not allowed to feel. And all of that, if we allow these basic emotions to be awake with our fear, to have integrity through the owning and transmutation of anger, to be able to let go properly through sadness and grief, the natural outcome of that is joy, is a heart that is light. And this is a cycle. It's not that we end up in joy and then that's it. It's a cycle that we go through. And when you add up these four intelligences of the heart, fear to be awake, anger to have integrity, sadness to let go, joy to express and feel our generosity, the result of that is a compassionate human being. Because compassion means I feel with you. I'm with you in what you're experiencing. And I can be alongside you as a friend, as a colleague, as a lover, as a parent. I can be alongside you. I can allow you to feel what you're feeling and help you to understand what the call for action is in that emotion. And then we become emotionally intelligent, fluid, fiery, passionate, awake people.
I love that. And in your book, you say that there are 2 keys to unlocking the heart and setting it free. And I think you've just described the first one, which is about being creative with all of the weathers of the heart. Is that what you've just described?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, calling it the weathers of the heart, it's like, I look outside right now, it's pouring with rain where I am. It's windy, it's cold. And I could be really upset and say, oh, that's really bad weather. Oh dear, it's not good. Or I just put on my waterproofs and get the dog and go out on the hills and enjoy the storm and look and see what that gift of rain is bringing. Without it, we're desert pretty quickly. And I'm looking at all the food growing in the garden going, thank you, rain. Sadness, welcoming water, like not just being with the preference. Oh yes, the sun is shining, that's good weather. It's raining, that's bad weather.
Yes.
This is, we need the weathers of the heart, just like the environment needs all the different weathers to move through our system.
I love that. The second key is about having a good relationship with the benevolent death. What is the benevolent death, and why is it significant?
Benevolent death is the day-to-day relationship with the reality of our own mortality. And in a lot of ancient traditions, this daily recognition that I'm alive, I didn't die in the night, I woke up, I don't take for granted my heartbeat. Today might be the day that I die. This recognition of mortality, far from being morbid, brings a sweetness and a presence to the moment. And it helps us to recognize that life is not forever. Love is not forever. We don't have so much time to waste. There is, and death is treated as a great teacher, as a benevolent presence, so that if I'm not afraid of my dying, if I don't put it over there somewhere in the future, and then I'm always shocked when death comes into the room, but I actually engage. I look at death as an archetype, even as I visualize my death. My scythe guy with his, I love that guy. He always laughs whenever I have an imaginal conversation with benevolent death. He's always laughing at me and always helping me to see the sense of humor in the situation. Look, man, you're alive. I could take you right now, and then you wouldn't even have a moment to create with what you're telling me is a terrible problem right now. No, get on with it. You're alive. You have everything you need. Create with this situation. This is what an awareness of our mortality, of death as a kind presence. And I know that there are different kinds of death which are not kind, and let's not pretend about that. But this is a specific relationship with our own personal death, the moment we will die, and to prepare ourselves for that, and to live today knowing that it might be our last day.
And it's a call to action, isn't it? I think the thing that you and I really connect with is this understanding that we have all that we need inside us, and therefore our gift to those around us is to bring all of that.
Absolutely. And I'm going to take that a step further. And I think we do have everything we need inside us, except for each other. and we need each other as well. We need relationship, we need community. And you know, I was very touched and moved by the work of Malidoma Some, a West African medicine man who died relatively recently. And he talked a lot about, in his community, in the Jaguar tradition, whenever the general state of joy in life dipped beneath an acceptable level for the community, the whole community went into a grief ritual. They would get that, you know, out came the drums, like big drums, like let's move, let's dance, let's wail, let's weep, let's recognize the sorrows that we've lived in these last few days and weeks and months. Let's let that move through us and let's really connect. And he also said that the community's job is to support the individual to flourish by recognizing them for who they are. This recognition of each other, appreciation of one another. It's like, you know, if a tree said, I've got everything within me that I need, it wouldn't last a season, because it's not acknowledging that it needs the fertile earth, it needs the rain, needs the sunshine. I need the recognition, the validation, the acknowledgement and appreciation of community to be as strong as I am. In that way, I'm then giving back to the community and strengthening the community. So this is a mutual, it's an infinity loop. It's and we call it a medicine circle rather than a vicious circle. And so I just want to add that, because I think often in the spiritual world, we often have this idea that it's all about self-validation and self-authorization, and it is to a degree, but we also need our elders, we need our community, we need the mirrors of each other, we need that in order to flourish. We need each other's recognition.
Yeah, I really love that. I think what came to mind as you were speaking was, I think it's that Jungle Book quote is, for the strength of the pack is the wolf, and for the strength of the wolf is the pack.
Yes, exactly that. Exactly that.
And the thing I've kind of talked about in terms of self, you know, I agree with you. I think there's too much out there that is almost making it like a hedonism, like it's self-pleasure for self-pleasure's sake. And I think the realization I've come to is that self-leadership is about getting me to a point where I'm not vulnerable to external things. I'm not in need of substances or situations external to myself to mean that I come to the world as a representation of love and spirit. You know, I can come to the world unconditional, and therefore the by the fruits of my spirit be known, kind, generous, loving, peaceful, patient, angry as an expression, but do no harm.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I think for leaders listening, and you said it really nicely earlier, is about when you go home and people get the worst version of you. You know, I think that's the importance of self-focus. It's being able to lead ourselves to a position where we can be from love, not for love.
I hear you very, very lucidly talking about responsibility and taking responsibility for our own well-being, for how we eat, how we look after our body, how we look after our emotions, how we take care of our spirit, how we take care of all those different aspects of self, so that we can be connected and be the best we can be and give and be generous. And I'm really pleased you said, yes, anger as a channel, but do no harm. So just one more word about that. It's not that I'm encouraging people to be angry people. Yes. It's to own, like, I'm angry about the war in Ukraine. I'm not going to go around being angry with my wife and son and family, but I'm going to use that energy to take action. It fuels my passion. It fuels my love for life. It fuels my wish to stand for peace.
Yeah.
And that's really what I mean. And if we don't allow anger, especially in relationship, in long-term relationship, if we don't acknowledge the presence of that fire between us and make it safe and creative, then it will be destructive.
Your approach to movement medicine is all about stand up, be who you are. You've just said take responsibility for your life, and then the last bit is about evolve the capacity to give what you've got. I love that. I think that's what we're here for. But can you expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, anyone who wants any form of fulfillment and like real genuine fulfillment as a human being, there's no other way, as far as I've discovered, than knowing what's yours, that you came here to share. Who are you? Like, really, who are you? And how does that inform your work, the way that you relate? And that sense of being a channel for your own being into the world, that is the road to human fulfillment. There's no correlation between the ego story of fulfillment, which is all about how much I can get for myself, how much I can literally consume and take, and own and have as mine, and keep, just expanding and becoming obese. I'm not just talking physically, I'm talking about my ego being completely overweight and dominant of my spirit. So our work is all about giving the ego its right place in the psyche, which is to serve the soul, to pay the bills, to do the shopping, to take care of that, to be grounded, to be strong in a sense of self that's healthy, not overinflated, not deflated, and serve the spirit, so that who you are and what's really specifically and uniquely yours. Gabrielle Roth, one of our teachers, used to say, if you don't do your dance, who will? And that's fulfillment in this world. What's your dance in this life?
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Thank you. I can't let you go without asking, what does it mean to have a jaguar in the body and a butterfly in the heart?
Well, in a way, we've been talking about it. It means to be, if we want to affect change in this world, we need the power and poise and grace and hunting, precision, strength, fluidity, and agility of a jaguar. That's personal power. Personal power is necessary, and we need to purify, clean our relationship with power, because so many of us have experienced power as a negative thing. And there are plenty of people in this world who are quite willing to use as much power as they can get their hands on to do whatever they want.
Power over us rather than power within us, right?
Exactly. And the jaguar represents your personal power. The butterfly in the heart represents the vulnerability that is part and parcel of standing up and being who we are in this world. There is nothing more vulnerable than standing up in the center of your power and showing yourself to life. And, I happened to hear this morning your lovely description of Pep Guardiola's thing, don't be public if you don't want criticism, and Pep Guardiola happens to be my personal hero. So thank you so much for that. I was delighted to hear that. That sense of we know, and we need to accept in our adult, warrior, grown-up, responsible, maturing, evolving self, that not everyone is going to love who we are and what we give. Not everyone is going to agree with us, and that there is a massive vulnerability in being the power you are in this world. That's the butterfly. And the butterfly is also the miracle of life, because if you look at the process of how a butterfly comes into being. A caterpillar eating voraciously, many times its own body weight, in order to build up the strength to create that cocoon in which its total self dissolves into soup, into liquid. And then from that, the imaginal cells, they're called, that are going to create the new form of a butterfly, start to speak to one another. This is the process of coming into consciousness, little imaginal cell by a little imaginal cell, until we discover it's time for that cocoon to crack and us for open our wings and be this beautiful, shining, vulnerable human being in the world. That,
love that. I love
you
that.
know,
And something someone shared with me recently about this metaphor of, I think everyone understands the metaphor of the transformation of a butterfly, but there's something about the butterfly's wings are quite wet when they first break free of the and it's almost like they have to like get used to the fact that they've got wings. It's almost like, oh, try these on for size. And
totally. Yeah, they sit there in the sun and their wings have to dry. And not just that, if you saw the butterfly in the cocoon, and you think, oh, it looks ready, and you open the cocoon, before that butterfly was ready for that cracking to happen, the butterfly would die very quickly. Wow. And the other really fascinating thing, patience. And the other thing is that when that cocoon is breaking, it's an enormous vibration inside. The whole thing is shaking. We call this shaking medicine. This is how we shed the skins that are no longer meet and match who we're becoming. We grow another ring on the tree of life, and we have to break that cocoon. That's how it is.
I love that. I'm going to be super respectful and conscious of your time. I opened your book this morning, and something really stood out, made me smile. I've used the same words, and I'd love to know the context with which you talk about 1 + 1 = 3.
Well, I've been with I'm married to Susanna. We've been together 36 years. We were kids when we got together, and in our early 20s. Same. And it's really been an incredible journey. And what we've noticed is that when opposites are in conflict, then you end up with 0. But when opposites are dynamically in equilibrium, like moving, dancing, when opposites are dancing, when yin really welcomes the full power of yang, and yang makes a protective, held space for the beautiful delicacy of yin to flower, then you have this dance where what they're creating in a really generative relationship, you're creating a third being, which is the life of the relationship itself. Two human beings, 1 + 1 = the third space, which is the life of that relationship, and how that flowers and develops, and literally how we make love. We are manufacturing love to put into the world. This is what we mean by that.
I love that. And I think, I think if we can, I think we think evolution is finished because we get 1 + 1 =, but I think that the next phase of evolution is when we come together and a body of a community, and like that manifests in stadiums. Everyone's singing the same song. There's almost, we talk about it being electric and a buzz and an atmosphere. I think that's what it means, almost as above, so below, because that's what our cells are doing. They're humming and vibrating on this level, but it's now. So I think for anyone that's listening that is still with us from a business perspective and an intellectual, that's what it means to be in a team. When we use the metaphor, the team is greater than the sum of its parts. That's exactly what I think we're talking about. But anyway, I want to wrap this up. I'm super respectful of your time. I know you talk about having, you're a man of faith and you're a man of hope and you're a man of taking responsibility and action. I guess that's kind of led me to, what it means to be always better than yesterday for myself. And you talk about creating the future now. What does the phrase always better than yesterday mean to you?
It means that we are, if we so choose it, in a constant process of evolution. So we're always on the edge of what's known to us. And rather than holding on to the known and gripping onto it with all we can, especially in times like these, where everything is shaking and everything is coming up for question, there's a big challenge and a big opportunity. We have a choice. We either hold on to what's known or we open to the unknown. And the unknown is always beckoning us to evolve. It's always calling us into the adventure of life. And if we are present enough in body, in heart, in mind, in intelligence, in relationship to that, then we are going to be, we're going to know something tomorrow that we didn't know today. We're going to experience something tomorrow that we haven't experienced yet today. We're going to give something tomorrow that we didn't know it was possible for us to give today. And in that way, we're going to come through these challenges as a species, as a biosphere, and actually do what the old shamans wanted us to do and were always invoking, which is, one, recognize heaven is present on earth, but two, go on creating that, go on evolving heaven on earth, how we live together, how we support one another, how we work, how we love, so that we can become a human presence on this earth that is benevolent rather than a threat to the rest of life.
Yakov, I've absolutely loved this conversation. I could sit here all day with you, but super grateful for your time, super grateful for your hard work out in the world. I'll share all your good links in the show notes, and the links to the books that you've written and the online resources and the in-person events that you do. Massively, massively grateful for you, your time, your heart, your energy, and I'd be honored if you'd leave us with a final thought from your good self.
Thank you so much. My thought is really a prayer for everyone that's listening, that you might just find the resonance, anything that's resonated with you from our conversation today, and just let that be like a seed in the fertile ground of your body, and water it by giving it attention, by exploring it, by discovering more about what it means to you, and that you and your family and your people will be well and will have the space and the freedom and the resources to go on evolving and living the best life you possibly can. Really grateful for your time too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, good sir. Just before we go, I don't believe in coincidences. I believe in synchronicity, and I've not talked about seeds for months, years, and yet I was having a conversation with a good friend Luke yesterday about he was just scattering some seeds, and I said to him the very words you've just said about make sure they land on the fertile ground, it's fertile soil, and it's just like the fact that you've just come up with that. Now, Luke, ask you if you're listening, my friend. The universe has your back. Yakov, I appreciate you, brother. Take care, my friend.
Thank you. You too. All the very best. Thank you.
Thank you for making it to the end of the interview here on YouTube. I hope that our time spent together has left you a little bit better than before you push play. Before you go anywhere, please leave a comment down below, some of your key reflections, your key takeaways. I love hearing from you and what this conversation has inspired in you. Let me know what you're going to do as a result of this conversation. I will be back next Wednesday where I will share another inspiring guest. To make sure that you don't miss that, please do subscribe, hit the bell, and you will be notified as soon as it goes live. If you're curious to know how I, through Always Better Than Yesterday, can serve you, your team, your organization, please do visit alwaysbetterthanyesterday.com, and it will be my honor and privilege to help you in any way I can. Keep leading, my friends. I've been Ryan Hartley, host of the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast here on YouTube. Always love.